Yes, good morning, students. Yeah, first, I'll tell you what is the portion for this week NEET exam and also for the next week NEET exam. Then I will continue with the subject. Yes. So, coming week, that is coming Sunday, that is on 23rd 8 2020. The portion, please note down, that is human reproduction chapter. Not complete chapter because it will not be possible to complete the full chapter. So under human reproduction chapter, I will tell you what are the topics. So the first one is the male and female reproductive system. Male and female reproductive system, the complete reproductive system of male and female. Okay. And second one is gametogenesis. Under gametogenesis, both spermatogenesis and also oogenesis. And third one is menstrual cycle. And fourth one is the role of hormones in menstrual cycle. Role of hormones in menstrual cycle. So students, please note down. I'm just writing on the slide only for you. Okay. So just don't listen and again don't ask me till Friday. What is the portion? What is the portion? So this is for the coming week. Coming week Sunday NEET portion in bio from human reproduction. Not the full chapter, only half chapter. Half in the sense like what are the topics that will cover? The male and female reproductive system, gametogenesis, which includes spermatogenesis and oogenesis, menstrual cycle, role of hormones in menstrual cycle. Okay. So already we have completed male and female reproductive system, gametogenesis, spermatogenesis. We are going to complete the leftover thing is structure of sperm. Oogenesis I will start today. Oogenesis will complete in 1 or 2 days. And menstrual cycle, role of hormones in menstrual cycle. Okay, that's it. And yesterday you had a problem in your exam, right? So that is because of the problem, something happened in the software. So hope like in future we will not have this problem. So we'll try to rectify that problem. Some students have got 117 questions in biology, 29 in physics, and 34 in chemistry. Some question like database has like somewhat collapsed, and that's why the problem. Fine. Yes, we will discuss the paper this week. Last week, what you wrote, no, biodiversity, organism, and population. So as usual, we can discuss the paper on coming Wednesday, right? And next week, that is on 30th. Next week, Sunday, full chapter. Full chapter, human reproduction. Okay. Same chapter, human reproduction, but full complete chapter. Fine. So these 4 topics, I think it is possible to complete. If not, I will tell you on Wednesday what is the any reduction is there in this topic. Okay. So till menstrual cycle, I highly possible. I don't know role of hormones in menstrual cycle is possible to complete or not. Suppose if I am completing before when Thursday fully all these 4 topics, then all these 4 topics will be there. Or else up to menstrual cycle, that I will make you sure on Wednesday. Okay, fine. Have you noted down this? Shall we continue with the topic? Have you all noted down? Please write down this in your notebook. Don't get confused. Don't read unnecessary things for this week in NEET exam. Students, are you able to hear my voice? I am not getting any response from you. Yeah, fine, fine. Yes, ma. Yes. Okay, right. Now let us continue. The day, that is Friday, what we were discussing is spermatogenesis. We completed the 3 different phases. So you please take your notebook and just see your notebook. In spermatogenesis, there are 2 steps, right? The first step is formation of spermatid and second step is metamorphosis. In the first step, spermatid, we saw 3 different phases: multiplication phase, growth phase, and maturation phase. And finally, at the end of maturation phase, the spermatids will be formed. but these spermatids are non-motile. Okay, so for the conversion of non-motile spermatids into motile sperms, it will undergo the second step, that is the metamorphosis step, which we call it as spermiogenesis. Okay, as a result of spermiogenesis, all the non-motile spermatids will be converted into motile sperm. So what are the changes that will occur in your spermatid? First change will occur in the nucleus, second one in the Golgi bodies, third one in centrosome, and finally the changes will occur in the mitochondria. After of all these changes, finally the spermatid will be converted into a motile sperm cell or a motile spermatozoa. Okay, fine. Then I draw the structure of this motile sperm cell, the mature sperm cell. Yes. So before going to the structure of mature sperm, you just add one more process that is called as spermiation. I'll tell you what is spermiation, then I will discuss about the complete structure of the mature sperm. Okay. Now, you remember I told you the spermatid will remain attached with the Sertoli cells for the nourishment. Yes. So Sertoli cells will be supplying or providing the nourishment for the spermatid during the complete metamorphosis. That is, during the complete development of sperm cells, the spermatids will remain attached with the Sertoli cell. Once after the complete metamorphosis, now what happened? The spermatid will get develop into sperm cell, right? After the complete metamorphosis, now what will happen? You please write after what is the development of spermatid into sperm? That process is called as spermiogenesis. I gave you this term. Do you remember? Spermiogenesis is the conversion of spermatid or transformation of spermatid into spermatozoa. So after this spermiogenesis, complete development of sperm, now what will happen? The sperm heads become embedded in the Sertoli cells, and finally the sperms that have been embedded in the Sertoli cells, no, after the complete transformation of sperm, they are finally released from the seminiferous tubules. All the sperms produced, they will be released from the seminiferous tubules. Why they should release from the seminiferous tubules? Only if they release from the seminiferous tubules, they can be taken to the epididymis. Okay, like starting in the structure of male reproductive system, I told you from seminiferous tubules, the sperm cells will be carried through tubuli recti and then to rete testis, and finally through vasa efferentia, it will be taken to epididymis, and from the body, head and tail of the epididymis, a long tube arises, and that long tube is the vas deferens through which the sperms will be carried to the urethra. Okay, now after the completion of spermiogenesis, the sperm heads which has been embedded in the Sertoli cells, they will be finally released from the seminiferous tubules, and that process, the releasing of these sperm cells from the seminiferous tubules, it will be done by a process, and that process is called as spermiation. And that process is called as spermiation process. Okay. So understood what is spermiation? So students, 3 different processes I have discussed in spermatogenesis. Please do remember, the first one, production of male gamete sperm cells from testes, is called as spermatogenesis. Metamorphosis, that is conversion of non-motile spermatid into motile sperm cell, is called as spermiogenesis. And what is spermiation? After spermiogenesis, the sperm heads will be released from the seminiferous tubules, and that process is called as spermiation. Okay. Now, what are the hormones that control spermatogenesis? Already I told you the hormones that control spermatogenesis. You know what are the hormones? That day I told you. Now I will tell you in detail the hormones that control spermatogenesis. The spermatogenesis is first initiated due to the increase in the hormone called as GnRH. First, it will be initiated. Spermatogenesis, the entire process will be initiated first by the GnRH. You know what is GnRH? You have studied in chemical control. Gonadotropin releasing hormone. So this hormone will be released by the hypothalamus. You would have studied some hypothalamus releasing hormones, right? Gonadotropin releasing hormone. This gonadotropin releasing hormone, it will act. This gonadotropin releasing hormone will act on the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland to secrete two important hormones. So what are the two important hormones that are secreted in the pituitary gland by this anterior lobe of pituitary gland due to the stimulation of GnRH? One is FSH, another one is LH. Both these hormones will be secreted in the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland. And you know what is FSH? Follicular stimulating hormone. And LH is luteinizing hormone. LH, what it will do, you know, LH will act on the Leydig cells. LH hormone, you know what is Leydig cells? Leydig cells are also called as interstitial cells. And these Leydig cells, it will act on the Leydig cells to secrete what hormone? Testosterone. Testosterone hormone. Okay. And FSH, no, it will act on Sertoli cells. FSH will act on Sertoli cells of the seminiferous tubules of testis to secrete what? A hormone called as ABP, androgen binding protein or androgen binding hormone. And also one more hormone, inhibin. Okay, so Sertoli cells will synthesize two important hormones. One is ABP, another one is inhibin. LH will secrete a hormone that is called as testosterone, and FSH will make the Sertoli cells to stimulate these two hormones, that is androgen binding protein and inhibin hormone. Okay, so these two hormones, right? And I told you the role of inhibin is it will suppresses the secretion of FSH. Okay, that's it. And Sertoli cells are the one which will help in sperm cell production. Okay. Sertoli cells also help in the spermatogenesis. You just add this also. Spermatogenesis will be done by the stimulation of this FSH, that is Sertoli cells will start synthesizing the sperm cells by the stimulation of FSH. That's it. So these are the important hormones that will participate in your spermatogenesis process. Done. Now we can go to the complete structure of the mature sperm cell. I'll give you time. You please note down everything. Students, if it is not clear for you, again I will write here. Wait. I will write here the hormones GnRH, which is secreted in the hypothalamus. And this GnRH will stimulate two different hormones to synthesize. One is FSH, other one is LH. So these two will be synthesized in the anterior lobe of pituitary gland. Okay. These two hormones will be synthesized in the anterior lobe of pituitary. FSH also the same. Anterior lobe of pituitary. So this hormonal mechanism is very important to understand. That's why I am writing it very clearly. Okay, fine. Now FSH, what it will do, it will stimulate the Sertoli cells. And LH will stimulate the Leydig cells, also called as interstitial cells. Okay, and these Leydig cells are responsible to secrete the male sex hormone called as testosterone or androgen, which controls the male sexual character, secondary sexual characters, everything. And Sertoli cells know it will involve in spermatogenesis process, that is sperm cell production, Then it will involve in the secretion of androgen binding protein. Then it will involve in the secretion of inhibin. All these are role of your Sertoli cells. Okay. And androgen binding protein, it concentrates testosterone. Inhibin will suppresses the FSH. That's all. If this is not clear, what I wrote in the previous slide, if it is not clear, no, here you can write this flow chart. Yes, copy it fast, students. Inhibin will not affect the concentration of testosterone, ma. Inhibin will suppresses the synthesis of FSH. Suppose if FSH synthesis is more, okay, if there is excessive secretion of FSH, then inhibin hormone will go and suppress the synthesis of inhibin. Okay. You can write, if you are having doubt in inhibin, you write in bracket, it suppresses synthesis of FSH. Whenever FSH hormone is over secreted, then inhibin will start suppressing the synthesis of FSH. Okay. Fine, finish writing. Have you all copied this? First slide. I think many of you came late to the class. That's why you're asking me the first slide. Yes. This is first one. This is just the this week portion and next week portion in for your biology. Finish writing this. Second slide. You write the definition of spermiation alone. Hormones, you please note down the flow chart in the next slide. This is somewhat congested, right? So you please note down this flow chart in the next slide. Hormonal regulation for spermatogenesis. This flow chart is the hormonal regulation for spermatogenesis. Finish copying, students, all of you. Shall I move on to the next topic? Right. Now see the structure of mature sperm cell. Already that day we drew the diagram, right? Again, I am not going to draw the diagram. You have to refer in your diagram when I am explaining the theory. Okay. So if I again draw the diagram, then time will get wasted. So I told you 4 important parts are there in the structure of a mature sperm cell. Can you recall what are the 4 important parts? The head region, the neck region, the middle piece, and the finally tail region. So we will see one by one. First, I will start with the neck region. Already I told you this is a very, very important. This is an important 5-mark question. You can expect this 5-mark from this chapter for your main board exam and also for your other exams, right? So mature sperm cell will consist of 4 regions. The first region what we are going to discuss is the head region. The head of the sperm cell. Now you just look at the diagram, students, and you just recall what are the things that are present in the head region. So I will tell you one by one, and later I will tell you the functions also. Okay. So the first, in the anterior part of the head, okay, it contains small, in the anterior part it consists of small acrosome. Wait, I will write it down. Head region, I will write down one by one. Okay. So the first one that is present is in the anterior part of the head, not in the posterior. In the anterior part of the head, there is a small acrosome. Acrosome, you know, it is the modification of Golgi bodies, right? And then in the posterior part of the head, not nucleus. Okay, in the posterior part of the head is the nucleus, right? And you know, acrosome is formed by the modification of Golgi body. So it is formed from the Golgi bodies of spermatid. Acrosome is formed acrosome is formed from the Golgi body of spermatid, we know. And what is this acrosome consisting of? So acrosome consists of many proteolytic enzymes. It consists of many proteolytic enzymes. Acrosome consists of many proteolytic enzymes called, these proteolytic enzymes, no, together they are called as sperm lysins. Okay, acrosome consists of many proteolytic enzymes, which we call it as sperm lysins. And what is the role of this sperm lysin or proteolytic enzymes? No, while penetrating the egg during the time of fertilization, these proteolytic enzymes will help in rupturing the follicular cells and help the sperm to penetrate the egg at the time of fertilization. Okay, that is the role of this acrosome. So acrosome is formed from the Golgi bodies of spermatid, and it consists of proteolytic enzymes called as sperm lysin. In particular, you can write a very, very important enzyme in this sperm lysin. Proteolytic enzyme is a major enzyme. I will write here. It is hyaluronidase enzyme. The very, very important enzyme that is present in the acrosome is hyaluronidase enzyme. Like this enzyme, we have so many enzymes, proteolytic enzymes present in the acrosome, and all the enzymes together are called as sperm lysins, because it is going to lyse the follicular cells when the sperm is trying to enter into the egg at the time of fertilization. That is the role of acrosome. Okay, so acrosome plays a very important role in lysing the, like lysing means digesting. Okay, digesting or killing. Okay, killing, it is not like alkalizing the egg, egg will be surrounded by many follicular cells, right? For the sperm to penetrate the egg, first of all it should rupture all the follicular cells and then the membrane surrounding the egg. For that, this proteolytic enzymes of the acrosomes will be used. Okay, now coming to the nucleus. You know what is nucleus consisting of? Nucleus will be consisting of genetic material. Nucleus consists of the genetic material DNA. Genetic material DNA will be present in the nucleus, and this will involve in the fertilization. This is going to involve in the fertilization or fusion of gametes. You know, during fertilization, the male gamete and the female gamete will fuse each other, right? Actually, the nucleus of male gamete and the nucleus of female gamete will fuse together and it will form the zygote. So this will involve in the fertilization process. And what are the other things that are present in the neck region is head cap. So this head cap, no, it will helps in the protection of nucleus from the anterior side. From the anterior side, the nucleus will be protected by this head cap, which is formed by the acrosomal vesicle. Protection of nucleus from the anterior side. Okay. Students, in some of your textbooks, no, neck region will not be given. They would have divided the sperm only into 3 parts. 3 parts means head, middle piece and tail. Okay, only in some books neck will be given as a separate part. Suppose if neck is given as a separate part, then you can say proximal centriole is present in the neck region. And if it is not given as a separate part, then you can say proximal centriole is present in the head region itself. But now I am going to classify the parts into 4 different regions. So I will tell about this proximal centriole in the neck region. So next, now the next part what we are going to see is the neck region. The neck region is the one that connects the head with the middle piece. Okay, head and middle piece will be connected. So this neck region, no, this is a very short region and it is present between It is present between head and middle piece. It is present between head region and middle piece region. So it acts as a connection. It is a connection between head and middle piece. Okay, it connects head with the middle piece region. Now, the main thing that is present in the neck region is the proximal centriole. Proximal centriole, already I told you, it will be present in the located very close to the nucleus. Proximal centriole will be located very close to the nucleus. And what is the role of proximal centriole? You know, proximal centriole, it is present near to the nucleus. No, it plays a important role. It plays a role in the first cleavage of the zygote. After the fertilization process is done, and after the fertilization, we will have the formation of zygote. Zygote will be unicellular, and this zygote will undergo cell division, mitotic cell division several times, and later it will develop into a multicellular embryo, right? For the first time the cell division to take place, the cleavage will occur in the zygote because of this proximal centriole. So it initiates cell division. You can write in bracket, it initiates cell division process. It plays a very important role in the first cleavage of the zygote. Okay. Distal centriole also starts in the neck region, but distal centriole is going to extend throughout the middle cent, little away from the nucleus. It is present little away from the nucleus, right? And this one gives rise to, you know, distal centriole will elongate and it will gives rise to the axial filament of the sperm. It gives rise to axial filament of the sperm. Got it? Yeah, right. Please write the slide. Fourth slide. Yeah, I will show you the fourth slide. You just copy this. Next, I will show you the fourth. That's all about the neck region, students. Neck region is over. Finish writing neck. Fifth one is done. Yeah, this is fourth, ma. This is fourth slide. Please copy this fourth one. Fifth one. So now we'll move on to the third part. The third part of your mature sperm cell is your middle piece. Next to neck region is the middle piece region, right? So what will be there in the middle piece? So the middle piece, no, it mainly consists of, the main thing that will be present in the middle piece of the sperm is the mitochondria. So this mitochondria, how it will be present, students? This mitochondria, it occurs by, it will be coiled. It is not a rod shape, right? It will be coiled around the axial filament. Mitochondria will be coiled around the axial filament. Okay. So you know which one is axial filament. The distal centriole has elongated and it has given a rise to this spiral shape. Yes, spiral shaped mitochondria. Spiral in the sense just a ribbon shape. Okay. But it is not alone. It is coiled around the axial filament. So you have to say it is spirally coiled around the axial filament. And this is called as, and this structure is called as mitochondrial spiral. After coiling around the axial filament, it will be called as mitochondrial spiral or mitochondrial sheath. Okay. And what is the role of mitochondria? This provide energy. You know, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It supplies ATP, right? So it provide energy for the movement of the sperm. Because once when your spermatid develop into sperm, now it will become motile. Now for the movement of the sperm cell, it need energy, locomotion, right? And that energy will be supplied by the mitochondria. Yes, and in the posterior half of nucleus, see, in the posterior half of nucleus, in the posterior half of nucleus, the neck and middle piece of sperm, only the neck and middle piece, it will be covered by a sheath. The neck and middle piece of the sperm are covered by a sheath, and that sheath is called as manchette. See students, this manchette will not be present in the head region and it will not be present in the tail region also. Okay, there will be a sheath or a covering which will be covering only the posterior half of nucleus. Posterior half of nucleus in the sense starting from the neck region till the end of middle piece region, there will be one covering, transparent covering will be there, and that covering is called as manchette. This will be present only in the neck and middle piece, not in the head and tail region. Okay, that's all. In the middle piece, mitochondria will be coiled around the axial filament. Already the axial filament has started in your neck itself because the distal centriole has elongated and it has developed into axial filament. Now this axial filament will be coiled around by this mitochondria. So this is called as mitochondrial spiral. In addition to that, the neck and middle piece is covered by a covering which is called as manchette sheath. Okay, that's all about the middle piece. Finish it off this, then we can move on to the last region, that is tail region. Please copy down the sixth slide. Complete the sixth one. This is fifth slide. Somebody want me to show the fifth one. This is fifth slide, ma. Okay, this is sixth one. Sixth one, have you all copied? Now we can move on to the last part of the mature sperm cell, and that is what we are going to discuss, tail region. The fourth region is the tail region. So in this tail region, tail region is several times longer than the head. This is the longest region of the mature sperm cell, several times longer than the head region. Tail region is several times longer than the head region. Okay, fine. And in its most part, the tail region, no, that is called as the main piece. So you can see in your tail, in the diagram, I would have drawn like this. So from the middle piece, no, from the middle piece, now I would have drawn like this. And later there will be one small thread-like structure. So this one, no, this is called as the main piece. And this one, no, this is called as the end piece. Okay, so you just mark that in your sperm cell. So this is the main piece and this is the end piece. Okay. Fine. So now the main piece will be the most part, and this main piece, it will consist of, axial filament, and this axial filament is surrounded by the main piece. Axial filament will be present, and it will be surrounded by a thin layer of cytoplasm. It will be surrounded by a thin layer of cytoplasm. Cytoplasm will be present, very thin layer of cytoplasm, and the part which is behind the middle piece, the part behind the main piece. Behind means at the back side. Okay. So next to this main piece, there will be a small part, and that is called as the end piece. That is what I have marked it here. Okay. The end piece, which this end piece consists of only the filament. It consists of naked filament alone. Naked filament alone means it do not have the cytoplasm. It do not have this cytoplasm covered with that. Okay. So that's why this is just like a tail. Okay. So this area is just the axial filament. It will not have the thin layer of cytoplasm in it. So the end piece of the sperm cell, which is present behind the main piece, it consists of naked filament alone, and this end piece is the one which helps the sperm to swim. The sperm swims about by its tail. Tail region helps the sperm to swim. Okay, sperm swims about by its tail in the fluid medium. In the fluid medium, the sperm will be able to swim or move on its own with the help of this tail region. So the main function of tail is it makes the sperm cell to move in the fluid medium. Okay, that's all. That's all about the tail region, ma. You can mark this tail region. And your spermatogenesis process is completely over with this topic. So we have completed the spermatogenesis, both the parts. Okay. First step, formation of spermatid, which includes maturation, growth, and multiplication phase. And the second step is metamorphosis, that is what we call it as spermiogenesis process, how the spermatid will develop into a motile sperm cell. And finally, we have discussed the, what is that? The complete structure of the mature sperm also. So please let me know, students, once if you're copied, like please let me know. ADP, Numa, ADP is a hormone-like substance that is synthesized by the Sertoli cells. I told you, right? Androgen, not ADP. ABP, what you're asking, I don't understand. From where will it get ADP for energy? Because semen is full of fructose. See, fructose is a carbohydrate, right? Yes, it is. This fructose is one of the composition which is present in the secretion of seminal vesicle. Okay, and mitochondria is there. Mitochondria, you know what is the function that will take place in the mitochondria? Mitochondria will undergo cellular respiration process, right? So usually in the cell, like all biomolecules will be present. And mitochondria, what it will do, it will start breaking down the carbohydrate molecule. Have you you would have studied in your 11th standard? It will undergo glycolysis, link reaction, and then it will undergo this Krebs cycle, and finally ATP molecule will be released. And this ATP, whenever energy is needed, ATP will break down and it will produce ADP and inorganic phosphate. That ADP will supply the energy. In all, see, production of energy and other mechanism and all, exactly it will happen like in your other cells. There is no differentiation in that, like a sperm cell and other cell. Only thing is your sperm cell is motile. No other cells in your body cells are motile. Why the sperm cell is motile? Because the structure is designed like that based on the function. Okay, and that process, how a non-motile spermatid is developing into a motile sperm, some modification is taking place. Because of that modification, the metabolic activities that is usually that will occur in your inside the cell, no, it will not get affected at all. The usual metabolism will take place in the sperm cell, spermatid, everything. Only thing to making it into a motile one, some arrangement of organelles are taking place. That's it. Okay. Because of these modifications, the usual metabolism will not be affected in the sperm cell. That will usually happen. Students done? Yeah. Fine. Okay, now we can move on to the, I think like you are clear with the spermatogenesis. I will show you all the slides from the first one. Those who didn't complete, please copy down so that I can start the oogenesis process. One more thing, please students, oogenesis process is a very, very, very difficult process. It is a very lengthy process too. So you have to listen very clearly. Unless you are not listening, no, you will never understand what is happening in oogenesis. It is not like simply by reading the book you can understand oogenesis. It is a critical process. Okay, it is not very easy like spermatogenesis. So please listen to oogenesis properly. This is second one. Third one. Fourth one. Why inhibin suppresses FSH in the sense? See, sometimes the follicular stimulating hormone will be secreted in excess. So there some side effects will happen. So if the follicular stimulating hormone production is excess, then inhibin will immediately, it will be secreted by the Sertoli cells to reduce the secretion of FSH. There will be overstimulation of FSH. In that period, inhibin will start suppressing the FSH hormone. This is fifth one. Okay, fine. So now let us start the next process in your gametogenesis, that is what called as oogenesis. So this oogenesis is a very, very, very lengthy process. Okay, and you know this oogenesis, I told you in the first itself, oogenesis is not having two steps like spermatogenesis. It occurs only in one step, that is directly the formation of ooted egg or ova. So what is oogenesis? You know, it is the formation or production of female gamete. Female gamete is egg or ovum or ooted. All are going to be same here. Okay, egg, ovum, oot from the sex organ, that is ovary. From the ovary. This is what we call it as oogenesis. And here in oogenesis also it will be completed in 3 phases. Here also similarly in spermatogenesis you have the 3 phases. The common, what are the phases? The multiplication phase, the second one is growth phase, and third one is maturation phase. All the 3 phases what you discussed in spermatogenesis, no, the same 3 phases are there in oogenesis also, right? And now we are going to start with this multiplication phase. So before that, I will tell you some extra things about this oogenesis. Then I will start with the multiplication phase. As in testis, ovaries also, they will have this primordial germ cells. You remember, I told you primordial germ cells. Here the primordial germ cells, you just write this point. The primordial germ cells which are going to enter into this oogenesis. These primordial germ cells, the origin of these primordial germ cells are extragonad, extragonad in their origin, which means starting first time when they originate, these cells when they originate, they will not originate in ovary. Okay, they will originate in some other part and then later it will reaches the ovary. So I will tell you, so this first you write down primordial germ cells are extragonadal in origin. In human, these primordial germ cells, they originate from, where do they originate? The primordial germ cells originate from embryonic mesoderm. I told you before birth itself, this oogenesis process will start. Okay, when during the embryonic condition itself, this primordial germ cells will arise and they originate from embryonic mesoderm. From embryonic mesoderm through yolk sac, via yolk sac, it will finally migrate to ovary. Okay, directly it will not be produced in the ovary. Please do remember. Okay, so in sperm cells, in spermatogenesis, the primordial germ cells, they will be present in the walls of the seminiferous tubules which are present in the testis. But in oogenesis, the primordial germ cells from the start, it will not be present in the ovary. First, it will originate from the embryonic mesoderm. Then through yolk sac, it will reaches the ovary and finally it will come and settle in the ovary and they will be like participating in the oogenesis. This is only for human. In other animals, no. In other animals, in the sense, in other vertebrates. In other vertebrates, these germ cells are endodermal in origin. They are not mesoderm. Except human, the germ cells are mesodermal in origin. In all other vertebrates, the primordial germ cells are endodermal in origin. That is not needed for us because we are discussing only about the human reproduction. Okay. And here the spermiogenesis process will not occur in oogenesis, and ootid is directly named as ovum. That's what I told you. There, spermatid is different from sperm because spermatid is non-motile and sperm is motile. For the spermatid to sperm, you will have the spermiogenesis process. But in oogenesis, there is no transformation of ootid to egg. All ootid, egg, ovum, everything is going to be similar. Okay, all are similar. There is no second step, that is metamorphosis step is not will never occur in this oogenesis. That's what. Now we can start the process. First process, the first phase of oogenesis is the multiplication phase. So I will start the multiplication phase. You just copy this. That's why I have told extragonadal. Gonad means sex organ, ovary. But primordial germ cells, no, during the origination, it is not originating in the ovary. It is originating in the embryonic mesoderm. From there, it is traveling through yolk sac and then finally it will migrate to the ovary. That's why I told you it is extragonadal in origin. Seventh slide. Now you are asking seventh slide. Why, students, when I am explaining the next slide, you are asking me to show the previous slide. When I am showing the previous slide, what you are doing? You are not writing anything in your notebook. So this is eighth one. Okay, fine. I'll start the first phase. The first phase is multiplication phase. So what happens in multiplication phase? So please do understand this multiplication phase in spermatogenesis, it will start after birth, that is during adolescent period. But the multiplication phase in oogenesis, it will get completed before birth itself. Okay, before birth, the complete multiplication phase will get over. But in male, the multiplication phase will initiate after birth during adolescent, that is during the teenage, when the male is going to attain the puberty. But in female, this phase from beginning to end, the multiplication phase from beginning to the end, the complete multiplication phase will, from beginning to end, it will be completed The phase will get completed before birth itself. Before birth, in the sense when the female baby is in the fetus stage. Before birth itself, it will get completed. That is, you write it in bracket, in fetus. Before the birth of the female baby, the multiplication phase will get over. Okay. Fine. Now I will tell you what are the things that will happen in the multiplication phase before the birth of the female. And you know primordial germ cells, right? I told you primordial germ cells, first where they will develop? First they will develop in the embryonic mesoderm. And from there it will travel to the yolk sac. And through yolk sac, finally it will migrate to the ovary. After migrating to the ovary, okay? Not when it is present in the yolk sac or it is present in the embryonic mesoderm. After migrating to the ovary from embryonic mesoderm through yolk sac, after migrating to the ovary, this primordial germ cells, it will divide. It will divide by mitosis. Again, similar to your spermatogenesis, here also repeated mitotic cell division will occur. It will divide by mitotic division, and finally it also produces large number of cells. Not large number of cells, don't write large number. After undergoing mitotic division. After undergoing mitotic division, now it will produce a large number of, you write, large number of oogonia. There you wrote spermatogonia, right? And here the cells are called as oogonia, and this oogonia is your egg mother cells, and there the spermatogonia is called as sperm mother cells, right? Here it is oogonia. First, now the oogenesis will start with this primordial germ cells, which after migrating to ovary, it will divide by mitotic division and it will produce large number of oogonia, which we call it as egg mother cells, right? Now, soon after the formation of oogonia, now this oogonia will be surrounded by follicular cells, and you have to write down the oogonia get surrounded. There in spermatogonia, you don't have follicular cells. But in oogenesis, the oogonia will get surrounded by follicular cells. And these follicular cells, no, the follicular cells are derived from germinal epithelium. They will be derived from the germinal. In ovary, in this ovarian stroma, you will have germinal epithelium. That germinal epithelium, like the follicular cells, are derived from this germinal epithelium of ovary. You can have a question, from where do these follicular cells come from suddenly? The follicular cells are derived from the germinal epithelium of ovary. Okay, right. And this oogonia will be surrounded by these follicular cells, and the follicular cells, no, they keep on multiplying inside the ovary. That will also take place in the multiplication phase. Now the follicular cells keep on multiplying. Continuously they will be multiplying. Okay, they keep on multiplying inside ovary. And the size, as they are multiplying, and the size of the ovarian follicle, the size of the ovarian follicles, no, increases. Okay, and finally these follicles will mature in the ovary, and this is not going to take place here. That you need not to write down here. You just, this is the completion of your multiplication phase. Okay, so please write down the events that will occur in your multiplication phase. From this multiplication phase is completely, it is going to take place before birth itself. First, the primordial germ cells will form in the embryonic mesoderm. From there, via yolk sac, it will reach the ovary. After reaching the ovary, it will divide by mitotic division and it will produce the egg mother cells called as oogonia, right? So consider this is oogonia, okay? And oogonia will have inside like nucleus and other things, everything. And after this, oogonia will be surrounded by follicular cells. The oogonia will be surrounded like this. Follicular cells. Okay. So these are called as the follicular cells. The follicular cells will be derived from the germinal epithelium of ovary. And these follicular cells, they keep on multiplying inside the ovary. So the size of the follicles will increases. Okay. So I'll write down the flowchart of your multiplication phase here. Primordial germ cells. These primordial germ cells will undergo repeated mitosis. After that, it will form the oogonia. Now the oogonia will be surrounded by, it will be surrounded by numerous follicular cells, and these follicular cells, they keep on multiplying. It will undergo further multiplication. They keep on multiplying, and the size of the follicular cells will increases. Initially it is like this. Now after multiplication, you can see the size will keep on increasing because the follicular cells are continuously multiplying, right? So the size of the follicular cells keep on increasing because of the multiplication taking place here. You can see then a follicular cell is 2 layer. Here it is multiple layer. Okay, like this it will keep on increasing. So this is what that will occur in your multiplication phase of your oogenesis. Till this clear? Okay, I'll stop here. Growth phase we'll see tomorrow, because growth phase is the longest phase. Growth phase will take place like so many events will occur in your growth phase. Okay, tomorrow I will complete this oogenesis more. I'll stop here and I will show you all the slides from the beginning. You just copy this. Finish writing this one. Now I'll show you from the beginning. Those who want to take the slides, you can take a pic now. So this is first one, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth one, seventh one, eighth slide, ninth slide, and this is 10th slide. Okay, some students are asking me like how to score 300 plus in bio. Okay, fine, listen. See, first of all, when you are attending bio questions, always have a practice, finish bio first. Okay, whenever you like go for NEET exams, I'll give you some idea. That is, for NEET exam, the good thing is first you have to attend the bio questions. I'll tell you why. It is not like I am taking biology, so I'm asking you to give first preference to bio. Okay, not like that at all. The reason is, in bio you will have lot of memorizing. Okay, so memorizing part will be more in bio when compared to your physics and chemistry. And you will always have a fear like whether you will forget everything whatever you have memorized. And in that fear, if you are taking it for a long throughout the 3 hours, so if you are attending bio at the end, so when you are doing physics and chemistry, this fear will not allow you to concentrate completely in your physics and chemistry questions. Okay, so first take the bio, finish it off the bio part, so that whatever you have memorized, no, you can use it for the bio part. And once when you complete bio part, you will get free from your mind, like you there will be nothing to forget because you have attended the bio part. Okay, and when first you are attending the bio part, no, try to complete it within 1 hour. So whenever you start your NEET exam, try to complete within 1 hour, maximum 1 hour 15 minutes. Don't drag the bio part more than that. If you are dragging more than 1 hour 15 minutes, then sure you will not get enough time to complete all your physics and chemistry questions, and you will leave some questions even without reading. Whether then after finishing your exam, you will like feel like most of the questions you didn't read, and many of the questions would have been very easy, but you didn't attend those questions. Okay, so try to complete it within 1 hour 15 minutes maximum. That should be the maximum time. So first, don't suppose if one question you are you are able to not get the answer for that particular question, don't sit with that question. You just move on to the next question. Okay, 90 questions, you just see if you are able to attend 50 questions thoroughly without any second thought or second opinion or having doubt, it is good. Okay, you attend the 50 questions, then you come down to the questions which where you have some oscillation, like in 4 options you are able to eliminate 2 and remaining 2 you are getting confusion. You just go through those questions and try to attend those questions. Please attend highly confident questions first. Okay, and then you move on to physics and chemistry. In physics and chemistry also, you just attend the highly confident questions, so that you will make an attempt to read all the questions. Suppose if you are sitting with one particular question for getting the answer, it will drag time like anything. And at the end, no, in the tension, last few minutes, you will not read the question properly. And sometimes there may be a chance of leaving questions which you know very well, but not reading it properly. So in all the 3 subjects, first attend the highly confident questions, and then you go on to the remaining questions where you can sit and think, and then you can pick the answer. Okay, in the last half an hour, you just attend the questions like which you are in doubt. Okay, so don't take the doubted questions or doubtful questions in the beginning itself, and don't waste your time. If you do like this, sure you can score better marks. You just try this concept in the coming NEET exam. Tell me how it is for you. Since if you are able to, if you are not able to score good marks, you tell me again, I'll give you some more tips. Okay. Yes, students, thank you. Tomorrow we'll finish it off this oogenesis process. Thank you so much. Take care.